Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the virtual racing compound. My name is Hasse Rømer, and shortly indeed I will be joined by a Jack Werrell that is storming towards the very virtual commentary booth indeed, to take his seat and to join me for what is indeed Road 9 of the Sunday GT Masters, brought to you of course by Grip Engineering and SIMRACER Coin. We're at Road America and at the very decisive stages of this championship. Indeed, I think we're gonna be in for an interesting race here, as I think it usually turns out for this track, especially with GT racing, has a tendency to really get the best out of car and driver as well. We've got a few moments left of practice to yonder upon, and whoever we chose to throw our gaze upon was in the pit. That was Chris Boland. Here is indeed, Pete Plastow with the car of Nick McLaughlin, a Canadian on his tail, the two Ferraris. And in the major news of today as well, of course, we have a new car on the grid. And I'm desperately looking to see if anyone's on track in this new Mercedes. And here it is, Cody Steek and the 555 Apex Tech Racing. This is the 2020 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. And I'm tempted to say that it doesn't sound all that different from what it used to, but certainly a car that, as always, packs a punch. It'll be interesting to see just how it does here tonight. At the very end of this practice session, Cody Steek with a very, very decent pace, 5th overall, well clear of the rest of the AM field. Got a pro sticker on his car, and I'm wondering if we missed something. And have Cody Steek maybe been moved into the pro ranks? We'll have to investigate this, but I haven't been given any notice. Anyway, it's gonna be an interesting one because we are heading into the final. As I say final, I do really mean final. It's the final 2 races of the championships, and before qualifying we will have a quick glance at the standings. Chris Boland still leading the drivers' standings here. Cody Steek has a massive moment in the Mercedes. Just 5 points clear though of Nicolas Cocato. And Remco Barlow's been sneaking in there with a very consistent season so far, getting good results time and time again. Is there as well with 159 points. That's 6 points less than the overall leader. So 3 drivers within 6 points with 2 races still to go here. That's going to be an interesting one to follow. Got Gaston Maceroni on 152, 13 points behind the leader, and in 5th place it's Pete Plastow with 144. Rest of the places is indeed Martin de Jong, Nick McLaughlin, Nuno Vinagre, and that's Jotze School there in 9th. 10th place though, and the standings Chris Roberts. And it is indeed Team Gabbiano and Giambattista Giacchetti now leading with 175 points. 7 points clear of Cody Steek. Now got a new weapon for the final 2 races of the season. It will be interesting to see, as I mentioned before, just what kind of effect this has on the final outcome of the series. 3rd at the moment, Orkan Kolak with a few points behind on 159, and on 154 Matt Sisseler and his Mercedes. 5th in AM at the moment is Chris Pio in the Ford GT. Not a bad result at all. And just to round it off in the team standings, Virtua Racing leads with 324 points to Virtual Racing Compound, the blue team, which is amassed 267. Plug It Like It Hot is 3rd with 226 points. And with that said, We are just seconds away from getting into qualifying here. Gaston Maseroni and Nicolas Coukatu putting their Audis in the top spots here in qualifying. Remco Barlow very much up there. Mind you, this race is a fixed setup round. So really what they have is what they have to work with here as Cody Steeg flies through the kink for the last time, and we see the session tick over in a very, very immediate manner, should we say. Of course, as always, a big thank you to both Grip Engineering and SIMRACER Coin. Grip Engineering provides real-world knowledge from the racetrack to you at home in the simulator. And it's from series such as the World Rallycross Championship, etc., which means it's some real expertise bringing in, of course, looking at the telemetry, driving style, and all that kind of things to optimize your results. Go to the link in the description, and there's 25% off of your first Grip Engineering service. Timothy Vanderbroek is an early mover, I think, here in qualifying, and then down to the flock of cars it is indeed. As we've seen it so many times here in this series, it tends to be very busy moments as everybody streams out on track to make the most of their 15 minutes of qualifying. And it is, of course, only 15 minutes. Might sound like a long period of time. It most certainly isn't, and especially considering the open format and the amount of traffic that the drivers will encounter over the course of a session like this. Welcome and a very good evening to everyone tuning in. Nice to see you around, Nick, and of course break a leg, I should say, out there on track tonight. I hope everyone's fresh after Le Mans. Certainly did my best to not stay up too long into the night, but it's hard, even though this race this year perhaps wasn't the most captivating of editions, at least in the top class, but hopeful that it's just a few meager years we'll have to go through in order to get to the better ones that hopefully are to come. There's a bit of traffic, and it's a little bit of fun seeing this. The virtual racing Audis want to sort of get together with one another to run their qualifying together, and oh, that almost ended in absolute calamity there, as Alfredo Tricorici has had a bit of a moment here. Let's see just what happened to the Argentine AM drivers. He gone way too deep in Canada corner. And with that, we've jumped to Chris Roberts. Interesting to see just how the first few lap times compare. Timothy Vanderbroek for stage 1 racing, and that also means that Remco Barlow isn't in the only BMW lining up tonight. I'm told that the BMW does quite well on the recent BOP for the GT3s. Always packs a good amount of grunt as well, the BMW M4. Still the prototype with the big old nostrils. You sort of get used to them, and I have to admit the car's grown on me over time. I was made aware of the BMW hypercar that's just been released as well today, actually, and had a look at that. It's of course, to correct myself, it's not a hypercar. It's an LMDH, but it certainly looks great, and can't wait to see that in action. Hopefully, we'll see it at Le Mans in the near future, maybe already even from next year here. Decent time from Timothy Vanderbroek. not bettered by Remco Barlow, Nick McLaughlin, or Pete Plastow on their opening laps. Martin de Jong slots in there in third. But these early laps often aren't worth too much. Oh, a bit of a collision there. And that was between, I think, Sander Kaffer and Pete Plastow. No, that wasn't Sander Kaffer. He's not in the... Sander Kaffer had a moment of his own. That was down to something very different indeed. Just thinking, that Dutch painted Ferrari was driven by, if it wasn't Sander Kaffer. Perhaps not a Dutch painted car after all. We'll have to look into that. But times are coming in. Osman Sert in the Audi, I was about to say. The Lamborghini, of course. For racetracknotes.app. The 66 machine that has seen some success this season so far. Has done very well since being a late joiner. And certainly himself and Orkun Kolak be drivers to watch in future seasons. Osman Sert has done a good job of bettering Gaston Mazzaroni by 100th of a second. These two, the only of the drivers so far to have pushed into the 202s. I'll just do a bit of an effort here to show the lap times. Counter as well. So a 202.895 for Osman Sert. Timothy van der Broek comes through but fails to improve on his lap. Makes you wonder whether that tire cliff that tends to come in just after a few laps there, a bit of traffic with the Ferrari now. And that's the problem as well for drivers in these open qualifying sessions, that Gaston Mazzaroni could indeed have been on a decent lap here, but he's chosen to pit in instead for fresh tires for these final 8 minutes of the session, given that this lap was to be a no-flyer anyways. And as I said before, I am expecting the company of Jack Werrell at some point. And it's delayed on his way home from a racetrack. And I actually couldn't make out what track it was. So I was in a Discord conversation with him very, very quickly as he was driving his way home. Because obviously you're not supposed to be in any sort of phone call with anyone while driving, I'm well aware, but sometimes you do need to communicate quickly, which is what Jack did. He'll be here, hopefully in time for the start of the race, which would be perfect indeed. Someone's had a bit of a spinner there in the carousel. That was one of the VRC Porsches, Chris Roberts, having the rear end wanting to overtake the front a bit too hard there. Matthew Forrest looking poised through the kink and down towards Canada corner. One of the best overtaking opportunities, it has to be said. Of course, the drivers can utilize pretty much all of that curb on the left hand side for runoff. And this final sector, which is actually relatively tricky, a final corner that's very hard to get right. There's an apex take Lambo. I think that must have been Lee Tucker, who's had a bit of an escapade on his own. Let's see what happened here in the 5-3-2 machine, as he has a bit of a slide onto the slippery iRacing gravel. Well, one of my few pet peeves with iRacing. I do like it a lot, but that one thing, the failure of the gravel to sort of slow you down, even from relatively slow speeds, it's slightly annoying. I don't know if it's been improved, but Not to my not to the best of my knowledge here, as they're fighting for track position. That's kinda, oh, that's a major jump there for Lee Tucker, as Matthew Forrest, the reigning champion, makes his way through. And just Matthew Forrest there, the reigning champion, but all the way down in 7th in the standings for this season. It started out well for him, but he hasn't been able to find his groove. I was just about to say it. I don't know if it's the curse of the commentator or if it's just the fixed setup, but he's lost the rear end of his machine. He's gone and spun it around. Still got just under 5 minutes to make good of it, so he'll be rushing to get back out on track as quickly as possible. And I don't even think we get a second look at that one. Let's see what happened here to Chris Roberts again. Don't think this is the same incident as such. It might just very well be the same place on track. Major impact for Chris Roberts. He'll be happy that it's just a quick trip to the pit lane for a new car, and he'll be back out there for another shot at qualifying with no repair bill or nothing to worry about except for the ruined lap. Pushing a bit too far there. You can see some of the drivers struggling with both oversteer and understeer in ways that they would usually probably want to set the car up to avoid. But not so the case here. To the final few minutes of qualifying here. Matthew Forrest 11th at the moment. Only Rui Pinheiro behind him there. Chris Roberts, who failed to set a lap so far. He's had a troublesome session. Cody Steek is in the pits. Still overall 5th, the AM leader. Very, very strong indeed. Nicolas Cocato here is 4th. Chris Boland as well in his Lamborghini. That's something I failed to really notice. But with 3 minutes left of the session, the pressure is on for the championship leader to pull something out of the bag. That might have been an off-track. Could have ruined his lap there, I'm not quite sure. As Gaston Maceroni goes provisionally quickest by just about 2/200, I'm sorry, of a second. Tight qualifying sessions here indeed. Maceroni in the Audi there. Betters the time set by Osman Sert. Cocato now in 3rd ahead of Timothy van der Broek. And then still Cody Steek in 5th place. Still trying to see if Chris Boland, he will have at least one more shot, if not probably 2 shots. It depends. If he messes up this lap, it's not sure he'll have the time to actually do another one. But if he does get a decent lap in here, he could continue on for the next one. But he doesn't get a good run here at all, and he way overshoots it at the exit of turn 1. And Chris Boland, it's not going to cost him that much time, so he could just about make it around before the checkered flag is waved in front of the drivers. It will be critical for him, but this lap certainly isn't going to last. It isn't going to count in the first place. Very close margins throughout the field. Not only in the pro ranks, but further down as well. Maceroni, Cocato, I think they realize their sessions just might be over now. As they're in the pits, the 2 Virtua Racing Audis. Here's Timothy van der Broek. Underneath the Sargento cheese bridge. And I guess that gets you peckish from time to time. Somebody went off there on the right hand side in a VRC Ferrari. That could have been a 1X as well for Van der Broek here. Yeah, he's gonna pull off. Try not to get in the way of, I think that is indeed Battista Giachetti. Yep. Giachetti still with a chance to improve. Cody Steek is probably gonna take the M-Class pole, unless it of course turns out that the Pro sticker on his car is indeed not misleading, but that is indeed correct. Those calls there for Giachetti. Maybe someone in chat actually can tell me, Nick or one of the other VRC guys that would maybe know whether it's the case or not. But Giachetti, I wouldn't expect it though. I think he would get the chance to finish the season because he'd, after all, really in there for the season fight. Oh, as he gets a bit too far out on it there, Giachetti, and he's not gonna improve. He's going to go directly for the pit lane. Matt Sisseler, I don't think he's been able to improve on this lap. Either he does improve in the 4th sector, but whether it's going to be enough for an overall improvement for Sisseler, I'm not quite sure. Alfredo Tricarici is out there as well. And I guess he's just stationary somewhere, which is a little strange, but again, he had probably had some kind of emergency. Just gonna leave it at that. Here comes Sander Kaffa as well. And Sander Kaffa, 4th overall. I said Cody Steek was probably gonna take an M-Class pole. Well, I'm gonna have to eat my words, because Sander Kaffa, 4th overall, sends Cody Steek down in 6th. Wow, that was rather impressive, I must say. And with that, I think it is time to bring up the results. The results of qualifying, if I may be so. Probably because the session hasn't ticked over yet. Comes Martin de Jong as he's rolling on through. The checkered flag is out, and you can of course see the standings in the timing tower on the left. De Jong will not be on a counting lap here. He's going to start 11th, though ahead of Chris Boland in 12th. He's going to have a lot of making up to do, I think. Matthew Forrest did indeed improve up into 8th overall, 6th in class, and 2 of the AM cars really finding pace here in the latter stages of the season here. That's quite interesting. And with that said, qualifying results or the grid order, that's whatever way you like it. Gaston Maseroni takes pole position in the Audi for Virtual Racing ahead of Osman Sert, Nicolas Cocato, Sander Kaffa, Timothy van der Broek, and Cody Steek. Then we got Remco Barlow, Matthew Forrest, Nick McLaughlin, and Pete Plastow rounding off the top 10 with Martin de Jong and Chris Boland. That's on the 6th row of cars, because there's more than one after all. But interestingly, Boland there in 12th place, he's going to have a struggle and a bit of a dangerous one as well as they get underway. Got an entire pace car lap here, so plenty of time actually to go through on the grid. And impressively, of course, Sander Kaffa, Cody Steek, that's worth mentioning, the 2 AM drivers that are very much in the top 10 and very much up there in prime position to actually duke it out with one another here from the start of the race. Steve Werrell is 13th ahead of Alfredo Tricarici, Matt Sisseler, Giambattista Giachetti, and Rui Pinheiro. Of course, Giachetti the AM Class Championship leader coming into this race here. And a bit of way down on his main competitor, Cody Steek there. Ari Sherwood in 18th place ahead of EJ Fuellner and Chris Pio. Lee Tucker and Craig Thompson is 22nd ahead of Chris Roberts, who did get a time in, although probably not the time he would have been hoping for. Federico Carli is 24th, and down at the bottom of the grid starting today, Stuart Jacklin, Orkan Kolak and Matthew Maddox. Jacklin did get in a time as well. The same cannot be said for the latter two drivers mentioned. We've got the field rolling for a lap of, well, it's formation lap. I would about to call it a warm-up lap, but if anything, the tires are actually going to get a little bit colder at the start here. Of course, you can get a bit of heat into the brakes. And actually also a good reason we see gaps left a lot of the time will be so drivers can accelerate into this gap and heat up their brakes. But you have to do so cautiously. It all burns fuel, and you might just be short of that fuel at the end of your first stint. And speaking of fuel, it is as always 50% fuel cap for the drivers, meaning that we'll see drivers pitting in around the 30-minute marker. That's usually what we see here at Road America as well. Of course, we don't expect tire stops, and there are no fast repairs. So it's about keeping the car in one piece as well. And often we've seen in this series as well that, of course, you have to be fast, but you really have to be consistent to do well. And over the course of the last few seasons here, we've seen plenty of examples of, well, exactly that. And as for tracks as well, to round off, I've touched upon it quickly, but this is a great track in my humble opinion. I think it's got a great flow to it, and also it allows people to race. It's one of those old school tracks as well, where a lot of mistakes will be punished and harder than at many other places. And of course, the same can be said for the track that we'll be visiting for the season finale here in 2 weeks' time, when we go to Sebring to round off everything and to get the championship decided. Now it's time for everyone to neatly bunch up behind the safety car. Look at Maseroni there with the overlap, making sure that Osman Sert isn't able to really get a run on him. I think he wants to stay as far ahead as possible. Don't break our emotion. Emotion is not exactly what I meant as well, of course. Immersion. They're close, although far enough apart that it's not the same word, I've realized. But they're all bunching up nicely here, as we like to see. This is one that could cause a bit of chaos here on the opening lap. Will be with the fingers and toes and whatever we can crossed for just avoiding the worst of lap 1 pileups. Trying to stretch the field a bit here, it seems, or so it at least could seem. But they know that they cannot overtake the safety car as well. Here they go. Maseroni goes very early as well. And as the green flag is given, it's a Ferrari, it's Henda Kaffa bringing it to the pro cars. Down to turn 1 they go here, the Audi on the inside of Osman Sert, that's Nicolas Cocato. Look at Martin de Jong getting a little bit squirrely there, coming into turn 1 further down, but I think it's Sert holding position ahead of Nicolas Cocato. Here's Matthew Forrest and Martin de Jong. Somebody just had a bit of a... Oh, and somebody's around further down, and I think that's EJ Fuellner. He's gone off, and he certainly hasn't come back onto the track before now. And I actually think everybody else has gotten safely away from that one. Almost making it 3 wide there is Pete Plastow in his battle with Matthew Forrest and Martin Young. These three know each other quite well on track, dare you say. Further up, it's Maceroni leading from Osman Sert. Sander Kaffa. Cody Steek having gained the position in the Mercedes there on the start, so he's done well. He'll be trying to chase down Sander Kaffa. Van der Broek in 6th ahead of Remco Barlow, Nick McLaughlin, Matthew Forrest and Martin de Jong. That is your overall top 10. Let's see what happened to EJ Fuellner here. I'm not quite sure. And the Ferrari, they were lined up so nicely, just gets too much of the inside curb. He punches the tires with the nose and gets dropped to the back of the field, I'm afraid. And it's problems as well here, I'm afraid, for Matthew Maddox, who came sort of from the back as well, and the Porsche rear end getting loose. Very dicey. And around it goes. Oh, we've had a problem here for Nick McLaughlin and Martin de Jong. And he's tumbling down the Canadian. So is Martin de Jong. He goes around there. Matthew Forrest plows into him. Same does Martin de Jong, who got spun. And they're all involved in that. And that whole kerfuffle has left Pete Plastow and Chris Boland a few positions up. Stephen Orrell, they're 3rd at the moment in AM, ahead of Tricorici. Then Rui Pinheiro will be trying to regain a bit of what he has lost in the SR Technique Lamborghini. He's dropped down 8 places, I think, it says, from his start. But gained 5 from his grid, so that will only have been some of the drivers that actually spun off ahead of him, I think. So the M-Class there doesn't always make sense. Here's Sander Kaffa and Timothy van der Broek, the 2 Dutchmen who well, they might not be in a direct battle at the moment. Sander Kaffa will be more than happy with having Timothy van der Broek in between himself and Cody Steek, but of course now the pressure is really mounting, and I think we're gonna see, if not an actual overtake, and at least an attempt here, and it's very much getting the job done into Canada corner. That's left Cody Steek on the tail of Sander Kaffa there in the battle for the AM lead. With Remco Barlow now on the tail of these as well. Now Barlow, of course, 3rd in the overall standings, and any bad luck to both Cucato and to Chris Boland. He could be climbing. But at the moment, it is advantage for Nicolas Cucato, with Chris Boland, the championship leader, 7th in class, which is of course what counts for points. 9th overall at the moment. But that's going to be far enough down that he's going to be worried, I think, here. Of course, it's a 45-minute race, and a lot can happen even in 45 minutes, but doesn't really seem to be the best of mates with the Lamborghini here on the fixed setup. I'm afraid Martin de Jong has been off again, so has Alfredo Tricorici. I don't think this has anything to do with one another. Just over-rotates the rear of the Ford GT. Had a bit of an update as well recently, which and I'm not sure whether it's made the car better or worse to drive, but it's definitely different, I think, and that in itself could be enough to catch people out. I'm gonna have a look at what happened to Alfredo Tricorici here. There's the Virtual Racing Audi The yellow mirrored AM car just takes a detour on the gravel and then manages to shut the door in the face there, what I think was Rui Pinheiro, who now has gotten past. Maceroni there leads, but only by about half a second to Osman Sert, who's very much still in contention. These two have a relatively comfortable advantage down to Nicolas Cocato, who will probably be attempting just to stay safe and haul in the points. How many now that can be? He's not going to be too worried about Timothy van der Broek, I think. As the BMW is stretching his legs on the inside. Way along, and he's going to, I think, make easy work of that. Yeah, Cocato wisely chooses to pull out. A bit of a stretch there from Van der Broek, who goes up into third place. Here's Werrell, Remco Werrell. Got Cody Steek and Pete Plastow. And then Chris Boland for company. So he's not all the way that far back, Chris Boland. But just still with a lot of work to do. Maybe hoping that he can get either attrition strategy or both maybe to work sort of in his favor here. All the while here, Orkun Kolak wants to get past on Matthew Forrest, who had that incident earlier. That probably won't have done many favors for the competitiveness of his car. Behind the Ferrari of Federico Carli, Stuart Jacklin, then Chris Pio. Lee Tucker had a bit of a moment as well at some point, I think. There he is. Behind Ari Sherwood. And the train of Apex Tech racing cars. And Matthew Maddox, I'm afraid, has had another problem here. He's come to a stop. Just the rear coming around on him. And he absolutely lights up the tires. Might be in frustration there, but it's probably not gonna aid just how the machine drives. Now look at this. Tricorici, Giachetti and Matt Sisseler. And for Giachetti, these are important positions. He needs to move on up if he's to able to keep a hold of the championship lead here coming into the final round. Otherwise, it is going to go the direction of Cody Steek, who's just been overtaken by Pete Plastow, I think. And now here Chris Boland as well, which isn't going to change much in the grand scheme of things. A bit of a indecisive move in the end there, Boland, and also maybe a bit of Cody Steek not really make it look a bit like he was trying to open up the inside for the pro cars to pass by, but they live to fight another day now, though. Stephen Orrell only 4/10 of a second down on Cody Steek. So Stephen Orrell has driven a very good opening stint for Easy Racing so far in the weekend Mercedes. And if he can keep on hammering like this, it's already in third in class, but he could be looking to improve upon that as well. We'll have to see just how that's going to work out here. Orkun Kolak, I'm afraid, has had a problem of some sort. There we go. Oh, just gets tapped as well by Nick McLaughlin as he gets around. 10 minutes into the race on lap 6. Got just over half an hour left here. Well, that is a major thing, as I was just resting the vocal cords for a moment, having a bit of a mint. All of a sudden, Chris Boland is facing the wrong direction, and he spent a lot of time. I think it was Cody Steek has been involved in that as well. Cody Steek and Chris Boland, though that Boland lost it first on his own, and Cody Steek collided with him. He's lost a few positions there, a lot of positions actually. Giachetti, is he gonna go through? Well, that's not gonna make us any wiser, is it? Looking at Chris Pio. And by the way, Giambattista Giachetti has come through. There's a bit of damage to the nose of Cody Steek's car that's gonna throw him way off there. Out ahead, Sander Kaffer leads him by 3.5 seconds down. So Stephen Orrell now, and then Alfredo Tricarici rounds off the podium. For Gaston Maceroni, it's a 1.4 second lead to Osman Sert. Timothy van der Broek there in third, ahead of Nicolas Cucato, Remco Barlow with Pete Plastow for company. And then, as mentioned before, the AM leader, Sander Kaffer. Martin de Jong mentioned that he's pissed as hell. I could take that two ways, that you're mad, maybe because they made the Ford GT even worse. Could be one way to interpret it. Or the second way, which could be that you've had amounts of alcohol. In which case you of course should not be driving even in your sim. I guess that's sort of not really frowned upon. Except maybe from your competitors. I'm not quite sure. So you'll have to elaborate on that at the next given opportunity. And I say that because it looks to me like, oh, you are indeed Martin de Jong. No, he's out on track, so don't expect answers immediately from the Dutchman who's out there running. 26th, maybe just trying to get used to how the Ford GT is nowadays on that open setup. Here's Cody Steek, who's gotten back through on Giachetti. We're gonna have to take another look at that, because that's major. It's into Canada corner, I think. I'm sorry, it is not. It's into the first of the two 90-degree right-handers. In battling with Alfredo Tricarici as well. Their textbook stuff from Cody Steek getting past. He's really putting the pressure onto Alfredo Tricarici. Doesn't seem too hampered by the damage at the front of the car. And he's happily pushing on. So the running order is Maceroni, Sert, van der Broek, Cucato, Barlow, Plastow, and then the M leader Sander Kaffer ahead of Orrell, Pinheiro, Tricarici, Cody Steek, and Giambattista Giachetti, the top 12 at the moment. Now Cody Steek is gonna try for the inside of Alfredo Tricarici. Tricarici's giving no space here. He's got the outside, he's got the overspeed as well, and I think Cody Steek takes the right decision in saying, not now, but at some point, probably. Matt Sisseler, let's go on board. We haven't been on board with the new Merc yet, so just try and a bit of a listen for a moment here. Well, it's gonna be a short listen. Just noting that Stephen Orrell had a wayward moment there. Let's see what happened. And that was, of course, from second and classy. Oh, he goes really misses his braking point big time, then has to get back across the grass. And I think he realizes that a lane of cars is coming up. He's out behind Martin de Jong there, who's of course that's not on track behind Martin de Jong. Stephen Orrell 6th in class, 13th overall now, but it's really removed some pressure off of the rear end of Santa Cafa, who's now not only way clear of Gaston Maceroni. And you wonder what happened to Maceroni here. Maceroni, and we've completely missed it. The race leader in Pro has had a multitude of issues here on his own. Just losing the rear end is not the first driver we've seen do this tonight. Oh, and he needs to be careful here, and that's why he's lost so much time. Is he's trying to get that car turned around without rejoining in an unsafe manner. He manages to do so, but he's lost major positions here. He's down into 7th. So that now leads Osman Sert leading from Timothy van der Broek and Nicolas Cucazzo, with Remco Barlow 4th and Pete Plastow rounding off the top 5 in Pro. Here we're on the 9th lap of racing, almost 18 minutes into it here. So closing in on the halfway point of this race, and ever so slightly as well on the round of pit stops. And we are anticipating to still have only had drivers that's been in for repairs coming into the pits here. And another problem for Cody Steeg. That's not gonna aid his championship chances whatsoever. Another issue for Steeg, who, well, not knowing exactly what happened, but it's what... And that is a tricky braking zone across the crest into the left-hander there, the second of the two 90-degree lefts. So he's now down behind Stephen Orrell, who just had a moment of his own, but Orrell's car looks to be in fine condition. Here's Matt Sisseler trying his best to get the run on Giambattista Chiacchetti. Up there ahead is Alfredo Tricarici. In between them is Martin de Jong, but he's one or more laps down. Look at Stephen Orrell here with the run on Matt Sisseler. Does end up giving a bit of space there on the inside. It would have been silly to fight it that hard, I think, as well. But of course, there are points on the line here. The two getting identical runs, maybe just a bit of an advantage actually in the favor of Matt Sisseler there. So might have been too quick. Taking a slight amount of damage. Not sure it looked like Stephen Orrell had the run in that situation, but you have to think twice. Chris Boland in 19th place. Oh, that's a major disaster for Chris Boland. This is really going the way of Nicolas Cucazzo. If he can just keep it cool further up, he'll be in such a good position. And whatever points he can take at this point will be better than risking anything, I feel like. Probably going to be his approach. It's just over a second down to Remco Barlow and Pete Plastow as well. And that's getting to the point where he's probably not going to want to give these positions away in any way for free here now. EJ Fueler in the Apex Tech Racing 3913 Ferrari way outbreaks himself. Heavy impact there at Canada Corner. Nick McLaughlin's moved up a few positions here, past Chris Pio, past Stuart Jacklin as well in the battered Ferrari. Here goes Matthew Forrest battling with Cody Steeg, trying to make up a few positions as well. Oh, Cody Steeg, who was in a position to have so much to gain. Giambattista Giachetti is doing what he's done so far the entire season, is just drive very, very sensibly. He's a real survivor in there, so good at making it through even when conditions are getting, or not even conditions, but maybe just the track themselves. Some of them have a tendency to be more atrocious than others. As we're on board with Pete Plastow through the kink. Such a corner of both commitment and bravery. Sometimes a fool's bravery if you don't have the technique to pull it off. That final sector, especially this corner down into third gear, so I'm taking in second here as Plastow. So easy to wash on wide there towards the left hand side. And there you see it. It's Remco Barlow is really gaining on Nicolas Cocato, 4/10 of a second quicker on that lap. Pete Plastow sitting comfortably there, getting dragged up along as well. And as such, they're getting well within the second of Cocato now. You gotta wonder, as we are indeed over the halfway marker of this race, just how much Cocato is going to be willing to sacrifice in the order of being certain of scoring his points. Now here there's a real fight between Matt Sisseler, Giambattista Giachetti, and Stephen Orrell, who's made it back up. And look, that's Cody Steeg who's getting back up here as well. So the Mercedes certainly packing a punch, certainly carrying some good speed here at Road America. Giachetti will have to defend in, well, I think at least not too long. It looks like pressure is mounting behind him. Here's Cocato, Barlow, and Pete Plastow has done a really good lap here to drag himself right up to the tail of the BMW. Is on a good pace at the moment. Seems to really be able to utilize the light car here. Pete Plastow could take an early stop as well, and yeah, he does. He drives very sensibly here. Intelligent driving from Plastow, who takes the pit stop as he realizes he's sort of getting held up by Remco Barlow. Sander Kaffa and Rui Pinheiro as well. And to take their pit stops, Tricorici, so it's a line of cars. Matt Sisseler and Giachetti as well to do one more lap. Martin Leong's got a bit more fuel. He could be fueled to, not till the end, then at least till somewhere near the end. 19.5 minutes remaining of this race. Here's Nicolas Cucato with Remco Barlow, and it's probably not the worst of ideas to get that pit stop done. We'll see how the order is once we've had everybody in, because I think it's about half the field we've had in for their respective pit stops here. Of course, the top 7 on the road at the moment have yet to stop. Everybody else has been in. So it's actually a good deal more than half the field that's gotten their pit stops done at this point. Bit of traffic there on pit exit at the moment. Look at this. Cody Steeg managed to jump Stephen Orrell there in the pits. He's behind Matthew Forrest. He won't mind that. Then Tricarici Sandakafa, who's had his pit stop as well, leading Am. Of course, we've got Sisseler and Giachetti further up the road, but they've yet to take their pit stops. It's going to be this time around for Osman Serd. Indeed it is. Osman Serd, Van der Broek here, Nicolas Cucato, and Remco Barlow as well. Gaston Maceroni, as the 26th minute of racing here ticks over. The last of the runners that have yet to pit are now coming in. Alongside that is Matt Sisseler and Giambattista Giachetti as well. We'll see how they stand as they come out. It's a relatively long pit lane here, but also a 72 km/h speed limit. So slightly faster than some, at least. That's Maceroni, I think, far down there. Here goes Van der Broek, though, with a very, very quick stop. Osman Serd, Van der Broek, then Cucato just ahead of Remco Barlow. Pete Plastow comes around there. So the early pit stop didn't work wonders for Plastow, who probably ended up having a lap more with a bit more fuel in. And I can see I have company, which is perfect. Better late than never, Jack. I'm so happy that you were able to make it in the end and join us for what has been a great race so far. We've just had the pit stops. We've got just over 15 minutes left of the race here, and all still to play for from front to bottom.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Hasse. Sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. I've been spending my day working with some very similar machinery to what we've got out on circuit at the moment at Snetterton for the GT Cup, and it seems like both a bit of chaos on my end, a bit of chaos on their end, and typical UK roadworks really didn't play into my hands. So once again, I do apologise, as of course you expect both of us to be in the commentary box, but I do join you nonetheless. I've been listening in as best I can, and annoyingly I just missed the pit stop window, but still with over 15 minutes of the race remaining, Hasse, we know, especially at this stage in the championship, everything can change, everything can swap around, and the championship is still to play for, of course. So this is really one of those decisive races. You need to make sure you score good points, otherwise you're going to be on the back foot for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and the rest of the season, that's a single race left in 2 weeks at Sebring. And that's why Nicolas Cucato is in a position where he probably wants to fight for that third place, but he doesn't want to fight too hard. Chances are he'll be able to keep maybe just Pete Plastow behind. If that is, he's just a few seconds behind the two. But he's in such a great position because Chris Boland is down in 8th place in the Pro Class, which means that he stands to gain enough points as it is now as well to take the championship lead with just a single round left of the season. So I think it's nerves on fire at the moment here for Nicolas Cucato, Jack.
Yeah, it would be a real shame, obviously, to see the changes this late on in the season, but it yet further adds to the action. And like you say, with the final round very, very quickly being thrust upon us, it's all down to how the drivers cope with it and how they deal with the pressure. Because whilst a lot of the time people say sim racing it's not real racing, yeah, sure, the cars and the tracks aren't real themselves, but the racing very much is, and the emotions can be as well, and you try not to take it seriously. But when you think, well, there's points available, you can't help yourself. It's just human nature. And seeing the championship go this deep in towards the end, and still everything being up in the air. There's no guarantee on who's going to finish where. It really does add to the atmosphere, and once again, now we're riding on board with Remco Barlow. It's great to see that the BMW is up there. He's had an on and off season, hot and cold really, some really good rounds, maybe some not so good rounds as well, but Road America is working for him.
Definitely, and it seems it's working generally for the BMWs, with Timothy van der Broek in second at the moment, very much being the challenger after a swift pit stop. We'll be hoping that he hasn't underfueled. Lee Tucker, Jack, has had a problem. Nick McLaughlin has had a disaster of a race this time around. I think this might have been the last straw to break the camel's back for the Canadian. As he's slightly... Oh, he's got Corvetted. Oh, he's gotten Corvetted, I'm afraid. Just a slight punt to the door. He went to the other way, though, and met a concrete barrier, I'm afraid. It's going to be heavy damage.
That was Harry Sherwood, wasn't it? That got caught up in that, maybe unsighted?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's actually true. And Lee Tucker has had several moments as well, Jack. So we're going to check out what happened to him here in his Lamborghini. Oh, way overshooting the left-hander. Oh, hold your brakes. It's a good lesson in why you hold your brakes when you crash. It's to not come across the track again. And good stuff there on Lee Tucker, to avoiding the, well, almost unavoidable there.
Yeah, but I've got to say, clever driving, good reactions. As soon as you make the mistake, of course, the first thing you want to do, punch the throttle, get back going again, but you've got to keep that in the back of your mind. There are other cars approaching that may or may not have been racing you for position. You hold your brakes out of decency, and it does prevent crashes. We are now seeing changes up at the head of affairs. Here is Osman Sert on the inside, doing what he can to defend from Timothy van der Broek. He goes the long way round, bouncing over, goes airborne over the gravel and the grass, but the lead back in the air once again. Osman Sert, he's found a bit of pace ever since he joined the championship. He made his mark, winning his debut race, but it seems this race the BMWs have been all over him. Those front engine cars really start to close up around here. Now Remco Barlow sat there in third place, so it's a BMW 2-3 as it stands, and I think for the moment Osman Sert has got that little bit of breathing room, but the BMW much quicker in a straight line, so we may see yet further positional changes.
Yeah, here comes Remco Barlow on. Oh, look at Kokato almost losing it. And Pete Plastow having to take an evasive action. He comes across the track further down. And all hell almost breaks loose here. That was the championship, well, the main contender at the moment, and the driver that takes the lead. If it so holds on like this to the end now, Kokato in fourth place, he'll be okay with that, I think. Maceroni, though, got passed on Pete Plastow. He'll be happy with that. Not with the race as a whole, but generally with coming back up into fifth place here. As though Peel on the lead battle at the moment, with Timothy van der Broek trying his absolute best to find a way past. Is that slight damage on the front of the car, Jack, or is it just delivery playing a bit of tricks with me? I think it's taken a knock or two there, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like a little bit of damage. You can see it on both corners, and it goes back to the wing. So yeah, I would say that is damage on both the left and the right front of that BMW, but using all of the track and a little bit more on the exit of turn 2 down the straight. The BMW in the draft, quicker in a straight line, more of a dragster compared to anything else in its respective class, but it's then that mid corner where the front engine car can potentially struggle, pick up a little bit of understeer. As long as you can get that rear to rotate, you stand yourself in good stead, but it's still going to be a real hard battle trying to get past that Lamborghini. Osman Sert can't only attack, but he can defend as well, so it's all swinging the way once again of the Turkish driver, but Timothy van der Broek, it's no mean feat to get one over on him. So at the moment, Osman Sert, the pressure is all on him, and it seems like van der Broek, it's really swinging his way a little bit, because he can choose how he drives this. I heard a little bit of contact in the background there, but with still just over 10 minutes of the race to go, he can sit here and spend another couple of laps behind him and then attack towards the end.
This might have been what we heard before here with Lee Tucker. Oh, getting off. Is that going to end up in contact? No, he keeps it under control. Just about. And another issue here for Martin de Jong, I'm afraid. Oh, that might have been what we heard. That's a major crunch. The front end of the Ford GT, that's going to be the end of his race, I'm afraid. Back to the fight in front here. Oh, Maseroni is getting past on Nicolas Cucato. No team orders for virtual racing here whatsoever. No help given at all from Gaston Maseroni, except for the fact that it might be a bit of a helping hand leading him ahead. Cucato seems to be struggling a little bit here, Jack. This isn't what we expected to see from a driver so high up in the championship standings here.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Is he playing it safe towards the latter stages of the season? If you thought he was doing that, you'd have thought maybe Gaston Maseroni would have gone, I don't mind letting you by, or I don't mind sitting in front for a bit, and then we can swap places. But like you say, no team orders, and he's falling away from his teammate. So he's not even like Gaston has got in front and said, right, just toe on the back of me, we'll try and pull away from Pete behind. So Nicolas Cucato, with I think a little bit of damage on that car I spied as well, he's really struggling around here, and it's a real range of emotions, I'm sure, for him, because final few rounds of the season he will be nervous, obviously anxious, maybe annoyed with the pace this evening. Not that he's in a bad place, he is still fifth, so good points, but it's all once again back up in the air. Then Chris Boland very much off the pace. I'm not sure whether he's had an incident this evening, Hasse, but you'd expect to see him higher up.
Yeah, exactly. He had a bad qualifying session, and he's been involved in incidents as well. He was put to the very back of the field, and as you can see on Matt Forrest's car, it's been the case for him as well. And I was just seeing the gap creeping down before, but now Boland's made it creep up ever so slightly as well. But if Matthew Forrest gains that position of Chris Boland, that could be even more points lost for Boland in the fight against Nicolas Cucato, who's now lost places further up the field himself, and thus sort of not making the impact all that great in itself. I don't remember how the difference in points is from 5th to 8th in class. But if Boland keeps a hold of 8th, and those 6 points, it might not be enough to keep the lead, but he'll be close enough that he'll still be within touching distance come the final round at Sebring.
Yeah, so still points up in the air, and like you say, that final round, it's going to be really, really crucial for the championship. That, I've got a feeling, barring any further action this evening, that'll be where the championship is decided, whether it be on track or just relative to points. I don't know as of yet, of course, that's all yet to come, but Osman Sert's still under this ever-increasing pressure from Timothy van der Broek behind. Last time through, it looks like, I've got a feeling that was last time through, the times we've got up on the screen. Sorry, that was the best times. But even so, last time through, 2/10 slower was Timothy van der Broek, and he's underneath the rear wing of Osman Sert, so it just shows how quick that BMW is. Even when he loses a bit of time, he's going all the way around the outside very quickly. Down through the gearbox goes 71 Machine, a wiggle from both cars, almost contact, but they continue on. This is brilliant fighting, and they can afford to do it. 8.5 seconds back to Remco Barlow in 3rd place, so they can afford to battle, just have to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, and neither of the two drivers are really in with a shout at the championship, so this is more two drivers really looking for that one race result as well. And I think especially Timothy van der Broek would love to win this one. And even with the bit of damage at the head of the car, it still seems poised and quick. We lost a bit of time there before. Still has about 6 minutes to find a chink in Osman Sert's armor, Jack. I'm not quite sure there is any, but we haven't seen him so far. He's been impeccable. Even though you do see that Timothy van der Broek does have the advantage on pace. Every time that Osman Sert's just able to inch out a bit of an advantage, it's quickly clawed back by the Dutchman behind.
Yeah, it is indeed, and it's a completely different car in theory, looking at the pair of them. One is front-engined, one is mid-engined, and of course you've got the completely different engines in there themselves. The BMW, a 3-litre twin-turbo straight-six, the Lamborghini, a 5.2-litre naturally aspirated V10, so completely different pieces of machinery, but balanced perfectly. And with drivers fighting this hard, it just shows how close the balance of performance is, not only in the real world, but in iRacing as well. And it's really, really shaping up. Less than 5 minutes of the race to go. Timothy van der Broek showing no signs of giving up as of yet. Osman Sert showing no signs of letting him by. It's going to have to be decided on track. This will be a race to the line. I heard a little bit more contact in the background. Fingers crossed, nothing serious. But for me, at the moment, Hasse, I agree with you. Osman Sert, it's going to be a very, very, very hard drive for VDB to try and work his way past.
Yeah. Oh, he's lost it. He's been and he's in the barrier. Timothy van der Broek, as we said it was just the car's bounce that he's got the meatball sack and he's out.
So unfortunate there for Timothy van der Broek. Commentator's curse. Let's have a look again at what happened. Through the left-hander we go, over the curb, and trying to follow the car in front. There's a bit of gravel, and that is a very odd incident indeed. Whether that is oversteer on the gravel. I know obviously these cars do have traction control, but blowing the engine up, just as we were mentioning where the engines are located, unfortunately, Timothy van der Broek finding the area of the car where his is. Also, he's oversteer one way, maybe a slight overcorrection on the gravel, gripped the rear axle and fired the car in towards, it wouldn't be so bad if it was a tyre wall, but straight into concrete blocks, and the car immediately destined for retirement. Such a shame to see. Osman Sert will be laughing all the way to the checkered flag, but that's such a shame. It does now mean that a BMW has gone from second place to second place because Remco Barlow has inherited that. Gaston Messeroni now up to third, but of course this now means Hasse, Nicholas Cacato up to fourth. Those are the points he needs to continue chipping away at Chris Boland.
Yeah, but Chris Boland gains that one position as well. So, but I guess Cacato gains more from jumping from 5th to 4th. Look at Matthew Forrest now on the tail of Chris Boland here, so it could become even worse for Boland, and it might just do so quite quickly as they come down towards Canada Corner here. Oh, they're gonna be careful here as well, just with minutes left, as they're racing between themselves. But to what degree here? Behind them is Giambattista Giacchetti. He's lost a bit of positions as well, but he's still in front of Cody Steek, though. That's all that matters to him. Staying in front of his championship rival, Am. Sander Kaffa has driven a very good race, 6th overall, leading Am here now with just over 2 minutes left to run, which means that we're gonna get this lap plus another one. Here's Barlow, 6 seconds down. Osman Sert might just be backing off to be absolutely certain at the end here.
Chris Boland and Matthew Forrest side by side, Hasse. They've been
Yeah.
battling
Oh,
for a long time.
Off.
That is Matthew Maddox. Maddox into the grass, but side by side, right the way down. Underneath the bridge they will go now, and down towards the left-hander we will see who will get the best out of the Lamborghini, who will be last of the late breakers. Of course, this being a fixed setup, so there's no real difference between the cars. Chris Boland not wanting to battle that one too hard, and with only, a lap and a half to go, he's going to have to fight very hard. And look at the Mercedes up the road, twitching away. Matt Sisler under pressure from Stephen Orrell on the brakes over the crest. You can see the tail end of that car dancing around, desperate to try and find some grip. So it's Mercedes versus Mercedes, Lamborghini versus Lamborghini, and very shortly the Ferrari will be in on the mix that you mentioned a little bit earlier on, Hasse. But Chris Boland losing out, having only just gained a place, so he stands himself at net zero after the past 5 minutes. But of course, Nicholas Cacato, in fact the opposite, he stands at +1, so more points over Chris Boland.
Absolutely so, and that means Chris Boland is back down into 8th place in class here. Oh, King really demanding so much of the car and the tires as well here. Oh, look at Matt Sisler. Oh, it's just managing to block off Stephen Orrell there. That wasn't the finest of moves there. He gets a terrible run though from Canada. And if he had all the distance from Canada to any given place in the United States of America, he probably would have gotten that overtake done. Stephen Orrell just running out of road there before the next corner. Now he's very, very close, and here comes the pro drivers behind. They're moving into bump drafting territory here. No, they're side by side, and the white flag's now being waved. So everybody knows this is about the final opportunities, Jack. Orrell is gonna get past here on Sisler. This is the battle for third place. It is, yeah, in Am. It might become a bit of a problem here for Matt Forrest, because he wants to get past and he cannot, and he finds himself blocked off, and look who comes flying up on his behind. Well, maybe not in those exact terms, but he is gaining though here, Chris Boland. He late lunch, the two Mercedes basically just side by side. They're all messy situation here on the final lap, Jack. And further up, look at this Kukato. Is this Kukato? That's Pete Plastow who's caught Kukato on the final lap. Through the kink they go. And might it be ascendant to Canada corner?
Let's have a look now. Pete Plastow looking towards the outside. Can he be later on the brakes? He gives it a go, but decides to go for the cutback. Very deep on the brakes. Yes, indeed, Hasse. Nicholas Kukato very late on the brakes, too late on the brakes, and Pete Plastow potentially forced to the mistake, put him under that pressure, and on the final lap, heading through the final sector, Nicholas Kukato, having been knocking on the door of a podium for quite some time, Pete Plastow up the inside, position made, up into 4th place, across the line. Osman Sert will take the win here at Road America, followed by Remco Barlow. Gaston Maceroni picks up the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race and takes the final step on the podium. Pete Plastow hounded to the line by Nicholas Kukato, trying to recover from that mistake, but doing nothing of the such. And Rui Pinheiro through the final corner for SR Technic. The number 73 Portuguese driver will finish in 6th place. And Alfredo Truccarici, the lead AM car at the moment, working his way through the final corner. Lots of cars in the background trying to work their crew.
He's run out of fuel, Jack! Oh my word, the drama will no end take here. What is going on, Sander Kaffa? He's just misjudged it. And it was looking so good. It's going to be an AM win for Truccarici.
Stephen Orrell, I've got to say, Stephen Orrell and Matt Sisler, after what they thought was the battle over the final step on the podium, basically got treated to a step on the podium. Giambattista Giacetti finishing in 12th place, Cody Steeg 13th, Ari Sherwood there finishing in 14th, Craig Thompson, another solid finish for him in 15th, Sander Kaffa eventually crossing the line. Has he crossed the line as of yet, Hasse? No, he hasn't. Yet further down the order, he's stopped before the line. He won't make it to the checkered flag.
He won't see
the race, but that's so unfortunate. 17th place. It would be nice, of course, if maybe a driver could put it in reverse, just push him over the line to take that checkered flag. EJ Fuelder will finish in 17th. Federico Carli will eventually cross the line to finish in 18th. Lee Tucker will finish 19th, and Sander Kaffa, it's so hard to see. Just watching him drop further and further down the order. There is Lee Tucker. And a very second-hand Nick McLaughlin.
Matthew Maddox as well. A lot of suffering cars. But Osman Sert, the winner here tonight, Jack. I wonder if the timing software feels ready to give us the results yet. We'll have to see. No, it doesn't.
I think we'll need to wait for Nick McLaughlin and Lee Tucker. Try now.
I'll actually see it pop up. They're not quite there, are they? They're rolling in across the stricken warriors, I think we could safely call that. And with that, Jack Werrell, I will let you go over the race results here. And I'll just say we take Pro and Am because it's just easier.
Yeah, we'll take the pros. Osman Sert took not only the pro win but the overall win as well. 3 seconds clear ahead of Remco Barlow in 2nd place. Gaston Maceroni rounding out your pro podium, only 3.5 seconds away from Osman up the road. Pete Plastow just about finishing in 4th place after a last lap move on Nicholas Kukato. Of course, Nicholas finishing 5th. Such a shame to see that mistake happen, but that is just motorsport. Rui Pinheiro finished in 6th, followed by Matthew Forrest in 7th. Chris Boland picking up 8th place in class. Good points, but maybe not quite what he was expecting from this evening. Nick McLaughlin finished in 9th. Timothy van der Broek sadly retiring just 3 laps from the end with that incident we saw a little earlier on. Martin de Jong retiring 8 laps from the end. And Chris Roberts, I don't think, took to the grid, barring that could have been a lap 1 retirement, Hasse. But that is your pro standings. AM standings are all over to you.
Yes, indeed, and a very surprising win in AM for Alfredo Truccarici, who got it very much on the line as Sander Kaffa was just rolling to a halt, having run out of fuel. Stephen Orrell gets 2nd, Matt Sisler 3rd, rounding off the podium ahead of Giambattista Giacetti, who extends his championship lead ever so slightly with Cody Steeg, who he is battling there in 5th. Ari Sherwood is 6th ahead of Craig Thompson, Chris Pio, EJ Fuelder, and Federico Carli, who rounds up the AM top 10. Lee Tucker, Sander Kaffa there. Oh, that's gonna be on the biggest heartbreak moments that we've seen on the series so far. They're running out of fuel at the final corner as such. Matthew Maddox 13th ahead of Stuart Jacqueline and Orkun Kolak. And with that said, Jack, you were in a bit late today, so I think I'll give you the honor of doing all 3 interviews. What say you?
Yeah, no problem at all. Let's see who we can bring in. Who would I like to have a word with? I think, well, we may as well speak about it. Sander Kaffer, what a shame. Welcome into the commentary box. It was going so well, looking really good for a podium, and presumably that was just under fueling.
Yes, apparently it was. When I was pitting, I thought, oh, let's lose like 2 liters extra, and then apparently they were so quick up front, so I needed to do another lap, and that cost me. And I tried to save it, but I had like 40 seconds in front, but I couldn't make it.
It's such a shame, an easy mistake to make. I'm sure we've all done it at one point or another, but I'm not sure whether the championship and points is something you think about, but of course this would have been a very good point scoring round for you, and sadly losing out on those towards the end and only 1 round remaining. Is this, would you say, a dent into your championship aspirations, or are you just taking it as it comes?
No, I'm actually taking it as it comes because I've missed 2 races earlier, so when I can write one off, then still I wouldn't be in contention to beat the other guys, but it was good fun though, so I wanted to have finished in front, of course.
Right, it's such a shame to see, but like we say, we do have 1 more round remaining at Sebring, a sunset race, so more or less into the night. 45 minutes, open setup this time, so yeah. You are allowed to tweak the car in every way you so wish. Is it a round you're looking forward to?
Yeah, actually it is. I've been practicing it a bit because it also has the endurance races every now and then, so must be a good track for me as well. So let's hope for the next race. Thank you.
Good stuff. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Congratulations for this evening. A brilliant effort nonetheless. Let's not take away from that, and it shows you have the pace heading in towards the final rounds, or final round I should say. But before we do let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Just you, of course, and my teammate Remco for this his 2nd place. Will bring him up in the standing, so good luck to him. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Sander. We'll see you at Sebring.
Yo.
Great to have Sander Kaffer in the commentary box, just under fueling. The guys at the front clearly adding that extra lap to the order, and of course thanked both myself and Hasse. Of course, when he said just me, of course he meant Hasse. That's no problem there. You've got to bring him in. The overall winner, the Pro Class winner, Osman Sert. Welcome into the commentary box once again. Adding yet another win to your tally, hounded for most of the race by the BMW behind, but an unfortunate mistake meant that you could more or less drive the car nice and easy to the checkered flag. How did you find it? Do we need to bring in Orkun? Yeah, no problem. Just remembered after I'd asked you the question. Of course, we need to bring in Orkun Kolak to of course translate, which is no problem at all. But all we said, Orkan, was it seemed like Osman was under pressure for a lot of the race from the BMW, but with a mistake in the closing stages, it just seemed like a nice, easy coast to the checkered flag. How did he find it?
Yep, hello guys. So Osman, sürekli baskı altındaydın ama son onlarda rahatladın. Neler hissediyorsun diyorlar.
Abi birincisi doğru düzgün cümle kuramayacağım. Elim ayağım titriyor hala. O yüzden sen cümleleri toparlarsan sevinirim. Baskıyı hani endurance yarışlarda çok fazla yaşadığım için baskı o kadar sorun olmadı.
So he says is kind of still shaking with the out of excitement because I think the fight between him and Timothy was pretty tough, but he says that he has a lot of experience with close fighting in endurance races, so that certainly helped him.
Good stuff. Well, we normally do 3 interviews. We've got both of you in the commentary box, so I'll just sort of bounce the questions between the both of you. So, Orkan, Road America, a circuit that I think a few drivers like, a few drivers hate, and a few are in between. With it being, it's got quite a lot of undulation in there, a mix between long straights and 90-degree corners. But how did you find it?
Yeah, personally, I think it's easy to answer. This is not my track. I just don't like it, and with the fixed setup with the Lambo, it's just no fun to drive. So I didn't give it my best shot. But let me address this question to Osman as well.
Yeah, no problem.
Osman, Road America hakkındaki düşüncelerini soruyorlar. Bazıları çok seviyor, bazıları nefret ediyor. Sen ne düşünüyorsun diyorlar.
Çok güzel bir pist. Yani pisti kazanmayı beklemiyordum. Benim için zor bir pist. Çok teknik bir pist olduğu için. Ama nasıl diyeyim, hızlı ve zor pist. Zor gözüken pistlerden biri. Çok teknik dediğim gibi.
Yeah, he certainly enjoyed it. He likes the track, but not the combo with the car. But he loves how technical it is with lots of straights and lots of different variations of turns. So he certainly enjoyed it.
Good stuff. And once again, while we're on the topic of tracks, I will fire this question at you both. We go to Sebring to round out the season, and back to open setup. Of course, you said you favour the open setup rounds, and it's into the night as well, but also quite a bumpy circuit. So for you both, is it a circuit that you think is both suiting of the final round of the season, and how do you think you'll get on?
Yep. Osman, Sebring hakkında ne düşünüyorsun? Çok fazla bumpy olduğunu söylüyorlar. Hem de sezonun son yarışı. Sebring'de neler bekliyorsun?
Sebring'i çok rahat kazanabileceğimi düşünüyorum açıkçası. Güzel ve hızlı olduğum bir pist. Yani ilk 3K'ya çıktığım pist olduğu için bilmiyorum.
So Osman is pretty confident at Sebring, and he thinks he has a very good chance of fighting for the top at Sebring. And in my case, I'm not very good at the American tracks, to be honest, but because it's open setup, at least I'll give it my best shot as well.
Great stuff. Well, it was great to hear from you both, and of course, congratulations to you both as well. Another good race. Thank you very much, both to yourself, Osman, and Orkan as well, for helping us along through the interview process. And 2 weeks' time, we will see you at Sebring. But before we let you both go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Osman, kime teşekkür ediyorsun?
Sen fabrikaya teşekkürünü yollama acaba benim adıma.
So Osman, thanks the team and the factory that helps us. So thanks guys, great commentary as always. See you in 2 weeks.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Osman and Orkan. And like you say, yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's always great to hear from both Osman and Orkan. And it seems like they get on really, really well indeed. They're not just teammates. They don't just jump on here to race with each other and help each other along. They truly come across as great friends as well, and two brilliant people. And once again, just adding to what is now the Sunday GT Masters paddock, and it's ever increasing and closing up on the end of Season 3. There's talks of Season 4, Hasse. I've got a feeling that it's only going to go upwards from here. It's a championship with great potential. The grid is probably better than it ever has been. We've got some great people here, and even after a few of the drivers maybe have not had the most favourable night, they're still in high spirits and always looking forward to both the free practice 1s, 2 and 3 throughout the midweek, but also the main event in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it just strikes me as a very dynamic duo, indeed, and it's important as well to have fun not only while practicing but while racing as well, and to have that company along the way. It's just important, truly, indeed, Jack. It'll be interesting to see just how the point scores will turn out. We'll see that tomorrow or so, and then we'll have it ready for you. The two of us, Jack, ready, hopefully in time and everything. But
I've already discussed
in 2 weeks.
I already discussed this one with myself. I've had the opportunity to go back to Snetterton in 2 weeks' time for British GT to work there. But as much as I would love to do it, I've got a feeling I will only go on the Saturday and come straight back Sunday morning just to make sure we don't have any further calamities. And it's the final round of the season. How could I ever afford to miss it? It's been a great season so far. And of course, whilst a day at Snetterton watching British GT, the GT3 machineries in real life, I've got a feeling it won't be a patch on the final round of the season.
I do agree indeed, Jack. I think we've gone to that point of the broadcast here as well, where it's indeed time for us to round off. Thank you so much for tuning in here on VRC with myself and Jack Werrell. Of course, I'm Hasse Rømer. And thank you so much to SIMRACER Coin and to Grip Engineering for helping us along the way and making us all possible in the first place. As we've mentioned before by now, we will hopefully see all of you for the season finale, same place, same time, in 2 weeks. It's going to be at Sebring. It's going to be a grand one indeed. So from Jack and myself, until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.